challenges we still have, and certainly, of course, what we think will happen, what we expect to see. We've already had a good bit of rain today, and that is really welcomed sight because we got the great rainfall for our yards, our fields, for the gardens, the plants, whatever it may be. We had over an inch of rain reported in a good portion of the state, a good chunk of the state. And now we will dry out for a little while. There will be this lull in the rain and storms before that second wave develops later on. This is the latest when it comes to the radar, so we are at 10:15 now. We still have a couple of showers that are lingering around central Iowa. These are pushing from west to east fairly quickly, so we're not seeing a whole lot with these, the tail end of the system this morning, if you will. And I'm going to step off here periodically so that we can keep an eye on the storm potential. And actually, I think I'll just bring my weather desk here. I've got this fancy weather desk. It's not really fancy, but I think it'll give you a good perspective of what I'm working with here so that we can talk about these storms. So most of the activity, if I zoom in here, it takes me a second to zoom in when I work remotely on my laptop and on this remote desk here, but we've got storms that are still working through north central Iowa. So one of the things that we had today was a lot of prolific lightning with the storms. That was early this morning. Then we got that beneficial rain. So here's a little bit of a zoomed in view where you still see that activity moving through Wright County. So we're talking Clarion, and it's also moving just east of Humboldt now and east of Fort Dodge. We've also got light rain in Ames over to Marshalltown and up towards Iowa Falls. There's a little bit of rain still possible here in the Des Moines metro, but we're already seeing some gaps in the cloud cover where we are seeing sunshine, and the temperatures are going to start warming up. That will ultimately fuel the storms that we see later on today. Let's talk rain really quick about how much we saw. These are just some of the totals from around the state. Observed at the airport in Des Moines, we had a little over a half inch of rain. Ames reported over an inch of rain, but there was a lot of central and north central Iowa that had radar estimated totals of an inch or greater, which is awesome news. That's the area of the state that needs the rainfall desperately. Now, most of the incoming storms and incoming rain that we see this evening into tomorrow, a lot of that's going to favor the southern part of the state, which is the area that certainly still needs rain, but maybe doesn't need it quite as much as the northern part. So that's one thing we will have to just deal with and contend with. So while we have this gap, the atmosphere will start to fuel itself up for storms. We have sunshine, the temperatures are going to warm up. In fact, let's see where the temperatures are right now. So it's already up to 72 in Des Moines, and it's already up to 75 in Carroll and Council Bluffs. So as the sun comes through and as our wind picks up a little bit, these temperatures are going to warm up a lot. The more they warm up, the more unstable our air becomes. There's a warm front that's moving across the state, and that warm front will be the focus for storms later on today. Depending on how far north that front goes, that's really going to dictate where we see the strongest of the storms later on. And so forecasting the position of that warm front is so challenging because it's really going to move to the north and to the east, and it may choose to stop right over the Des Moines metro. It may stop a little bit farther east of Des Moines. So that really will obviously dictate how much we see in terms of any severe storms. So here is the current outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. It's a level 3 risk right now for I-80 and areas to the south. This orange color is that level 3 risk. The higher the number, the higher the risk. So a level 5 risk would be the highest possible risk. Those are incredibly rare. Level 3 is sort of a middle of the road kind of risk. Level 2 is highlighted here in yellow, and in green we have level 1. That's the lower risk. So the farther north you go, the lower that risk becomes. The farther south we go, the higher that risk becomes, and we could see the strongest of the storms, I think, from Des Moines down to the south. We're talking Ottumwa, Lamoni, Creston, Osceola, Sheraton, Centerville, even Newton and Oskaloosa, Pella, Knoxville. These are going to be the areas that we really watch for severe storms later on today. One thing I do want to stress here, this is probably the most important part of the forecast, is just because there is a severe weather outlook highlighted here does not mean that all storms will become severe. It means this would be that greatest zone, that greatest area of potential for severe thunderstorms. It's all dependent on how quickly our atmosphere destabilizes stabilizes, meaning how much sunshine, how much fuel we get for the storms, how this morning's rain affects it, because clouds and rain, like we had this morning and like some areas are still dealing with, actually suppress storm development a little bit. It keeps our atmosphere more stable. A stable atmosphere doesn't allow storms to grow and become as strong. Meanwhile, an unstable atmosphere, it certainly would allow storms to grow and become stronger, to become more severe. So as the atmosphere destabilizes throughout the day, that will sort of dictate what we see in terms of severe weather. So it's all kind of a contingency thing. You know, if this happens, then this will likely happen. If this does not happen, then this probably won't happen. But I would rather you be prepared for the severe weather threats, because if the atmosphere gets unstable enough, these threats can materialize pretty quickly, and we could be dealing with some really strong storms in the southern part of the state. The main thing I will be watching out for is hail. Large hail across southern Iowa with these storms. Strong wind gusts, so that could be in excess of 60 miles per hour with some storms. Can't totally rule out a tornado today. The setup, the shear, the spin for a tornado is just not quite as pronounced as the threat for hail or for wind would be, but there is still a little window of opportunity where we could see a tornado that spins up in southern Iowa. So that's something we have to watch for. And then, because these storms will be producing such heavy rainfall over a quick period of time, flash flooding could be possible in the southern part of the state. It was just a couple of weeks ago when Eldon, Iowa, which is in Wapello County near Ottumwa, when Eldon flooded, had way too much rain in too short of a time, and the whole town flooded. They had issues at the town hall. It was a really bad setup. That same part of the state is the area that I'm going to be watching for flash flooding potential today. The farther north you go, the lower that threat will be, and the lower the rain totals will be. The farther south, the higher those rain totals will probably be. So it's a level 3 on our threat tracker, and again, this is mainly going to be after 4 o'clock. I'm also watching for your comments on Facebook, so I will try to capture those here and see what I see. Just always monitoring our time too, as we have our Local 5 News midday newscast that comes on at 11 a.m. So I'll have to get ready for that, of course. But jumping on here and looking at a couple of comments before we keep talking. Ashley said, bring on rain and storms. Please tell me Des Moines will get some. I think there's another opportunity for us to have some storms here in Des Moines. Colleen said, good morning from Humboldt. Mike said, hi from Belle Plaine. Hi, Mike. Hi, Colleen. Hi, Chris. Good morning to you. So, you know, this is it's a contingency thing. I think that's probably the most important part of this, is that, you know, not all storms are going to become severe. I hope we don't have the same level of severe weather, but at the same time, I say sometimes that it's really hard to get a lot of good rainfall in the summertime without some sort of severe weather threat. So that's the catch-22, if you will. Here's what I think it'll look like on the radar as we go through the day. So pay attention to the time clock there in the top right-hand corner. So around 1 o'clock today, this afternoon, early afternoon, this is what I think it'll look like. There will probably be rain northeast of Des Moines, so we're looking from Mason City to Waterloo. Some of that could be approaching Highway 18 or Highway 20, but I think central Iowa should be dry. We will see a blend of clouds and sun. It probably won't be totally sunny, but it probably won't be totally cloudy either. That sun, as it works through the clouds, it'll heat us up a little bit. So let me carry you through the afternoon. By 4:30, here's what the radar could look like. Most of the activity is still north and east of Des Moines at that point. We may see a little bit popping up along Highway 30, still Mason City to Waterloo, back down to Cedar Rapids and Belle Plaine. That's the area that we will start to see the storms first, north and east of Des Moines. As the afternoon and the evening goes on, we will see those storms continue to, I say, back build, meaning they'll move south and west a little bit, which is kind of an odd setup, and we will see them move closer to central Iowa. So even by 5:30, 6 o'clock, a lot of this could still be northeast of Des Moines. So a good chunk of our day could wind up being dry here up until the evening, and then that's when stuff will get going. Now, I always say anytime after 4 o'clock, storms are fair game, and I really phrase it that way because we get little cells that pop out in advance of that, and our FUTURECAST model is good but it does not do a perfect job with forecasting what we call afternoon convection. It has a really tough time with summer convection, and so radar very rarely looks exactly like the models predict, but it gives us at least a good idea of what's going on or what to expect there. Let me carry you through 7 p.m., 7 to 7:30. Now stuff is starting to move a little bit closer to central Iowa. It's starting to creep in, close in on the Des Moines metro a little bit. These storms are bubbling up, and where you see these darker reds, these maroon colors, that's indicating that we could see some large hail with storms that develop as well. So it's approaching I-80 at that point and maybe even pushing a little bit farther south of I-80. Now let's talk, what time are we at here? 9:30 p.m. Now it's moved into central and southern Iowa. There's a system or a phenomenon, if you will, in the atmosphere. It's called the low-level jet, and it's a phenomenon that kicks in late at night, and it strengthens our storms up a little bit. So this doesn't happen all the time, but it's something that will happen tonight. It happened last night too, which is why much of that rain, much of the thunder and the lightning actually popped up in the middle of the night. So it will help fuel some of these storms across southern Iowa. These do not really scream severe weather potential to me just because they become really broad in coverage. A lot of us are seeing them. They're raining themselves out. But what I do see there at that point is a heavy rainfall potential. So it's southeast Iowa, especially Highway 34 and south to the Missouri border, that has the potential for several inches of rain. You know, underneath one of these storms, they could get 2, maybe 3 inches of rain. That would not be exaggerating it, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's higher totals than that across far southern Iowa. It's just really dependent on which storms set up over which towns. Now, by 11 o'clock, we are seeing the worst of these storms, the strongest, the heaviest of it, pushing, I think, into Missouri. It's going to be a late night in Missouri. However, we will still be dealing with rain, still be dealing with off and on thunder, lightning, and that will continue through probably the wee morning hours before we get a little bit of a break by, say, 5:30, 6 a.m. tomorrow. I do think Saturday morning will be dry, but then heading into tomorrow afternoon, we will see another wave of rain. So Saturday is trending a little bit wetter. I know that's not great news because a lot of people have plans. It's good news for the areas that need some rainfall, but it is trending a little wetter, so we've had to raise the rain chances for Saturday. It'll be scattered in coverage. We will be a lot cooler. The atmosphere will be, much more stable tomorrow than it is today. So I don't really think severe weather will be a problem tomorrow. In fact, I don't even know that we'll have thunderstorms, to tell you the truth. I think it'll be thunder, lightning, occasionally. It'll mostly be rain heading into Saturday. And that'll carry us through Saturday early in the evening. It may break a little bit tomorrow night again, and then we will see one final push of moisture coming in Sunday. So there are quite a few rain chances to look forward to. Unfortunately, it falls on the weekend, so it's not great for events. We already know that Rendezvous on the Riverview this evening will not happen as planned because of the storm potential and the rain. We have the Corn Belt 150 in Knoxville tonight, which I know I've had so many people ask me about, like, what can we expect in Knoxville? And I don't think it looks good. They might get the race started just depending on what time those storms initially fire up, but I don't think they'll complete a race tonight just based on the current radar trends. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. Jennifer said, we need the rain. Hi, Patty. Good to see you. Thanks for the updates. Hi, Ron. Good to see you. Cindy Joe said, are you going storm chasing? I am not, mainly because if things get pretty active, I will be right back here. Chief Meteorologist Brad Edwards will be taking the lead, and he'll be watching these storms and the rain and everything through the evening. But should we start to deal with a tornado setup or anything like that, I will be joining him in studio. So I'm not chasing today simply because I need to make sure I'm free and ready to roll later in case anything happens. Veronica said good morning from Woodward. Oh, I lost the comment. Where did it go? Veronica said good morning from Woodward. We need rain, keep raining, but bad storms. Yeah, we've had lots of rain this morning, and I can say a lot because we've had hardly any rain recently, so it's good to see that. Just checking more comments, more areas here. Jennifer asked about Marshalltown. Jennifer, Marshalltown is in that zone where you could see storms on the initial end of it. So anytime after, I would say anytime after 3 o'clock in Marshalltown, we could have storms, and then they will push a little bit farther to the south. All right, let me hop over here and talk a little bit about how much rain we expect to see. That's not quite what I was looking for. The models always have a really tough time predicting how much rain we're going to see too, because it's all dependent on those thunderstorms, which ones get stronger, which ones get heavier. And actually, I think this is probably a better picture. Don't take the numbers exactly for what they are, but I think the models are handling this a little bit better. Most of the action is going to be east of I-35. If you are west of I-35, your risk for storms, your risk for severe weather is not zero, but it's a little bit lower. So areas along and east of I-35 is where we will be watching this. And that's a change. I know that the forecast changes a lot, which is why we are doing this live stream for you to try to break it down, because things change in our atmosphere. And especially here in Iowa, we know that things change like that. And that's what's happened this week. Originally, it looked like most of the energy would be across western and southwestern Iowa. There will still be energy there for storms. In fact, that's where the energy is coming from. But I think that the storms, where they initiate based on where the interaction of our warm front, our cold front, our upper level low, all of these different components in the atmosphere, I think the worst of it will actually be along and east of I-35. So this is why we are expecting some pretty heavy rainfall. We could see pockets of totals that are over 2 inches. Do I think exactly 4.71 inches of rain is going to fall in Ottumwa? No. I do think Ottumwa could see some pretty heavy rainfall, but this is just a radar guess, essentially. So you can't look at these exact totals and say, that's what's going to happen in that town. However, we know that east and southeast of Des Moines is where we will see the higher rain chances. Notice that this has brought the rain chance, or the rain total, that it projects down a little bit for Des Moines. It doesn't mean that Des Moines will only get 0.2 of an inch of rain. It could play out that way. That's also at the airport where we see that. But I think that we will get clipped by thunderstorms in Des Moines as well. However, if you are in Marshalltown, if you are in Newton, if you are in Grinnell, Brooklyn, Montezuma, Oskaloosa, Ottumwa, Pella, Knoxville, Lamoni, Centerville, Sheraton, Osceola, you are the areas that we're watching closest for storms. I think I mentioned Knoxville and Pella. Marion County we're definitely watching. So, you know, everybody has a potential, but we try to identify who has that greatest potential. Where will that be setting up? To kind of reiterate what we could see in storms, and we call them discrete storms, which means they need to get out ahead of the main area of storms. So think about a big wave of storms that comes through. They're all fighting each other for energy in the atmosphere. But if one little storm, one little guy gets out ahead of that main cluster of storms, it's got all the energy in the world for itself. That is the storm that we watch to potentially become severe. So it's the ones that can tap into the atmospheric instability, the energy out there, before the rest of them come in. It's like when you I'm trying to think of a good explanation here. It's like when you, I don't know, let's say you're having dinner, right? And you go to be the first person to dig whatever it is out of the pot or out of the casserole dish. You're going to have the best pick of it, right? You're going to have the best pick of the cookies off the tray when you get them fresh out of the oven. But then when the whole family comes around to pick the cookies off the tray, now everybody, you're kind of left with the leftovers. That's sort of, in a weird roundabout way, how severe weather works. That one storm out ahead of the main cluster of storms can pick up on that energy. It gets it all to itself. It uses it up. And then the main cluster of storms comes along and it actually looks worse, but it's the one that, you know, they're all fighting each other for energy. So it's those discrete storms that we have to watch out for today. What gets out ahead of the main area of storms? Any of those discrete storms that develop could produce a large hail in excess of an inch or larger, damaging wind gusts of 60 miles per hour or greater. Flash flooding potential is there, not a guarantee, and it's a lower threat for a tornado, but not a zero threat. So we keep an eye on that, and I cannot stress enough because I don't want to be the meteorologist who cried wolf. I don't want to be the boy who cried wolf. That's not who I am. You know that I shoot it to you straight. I give you what I believe will happen, and I tell you the little caveats. If the warm front stalls a little bit and doesn't go as far north, if we see more cloud cover and less sunshine, less atmospheric fuel, then these storms will be suppressed a little bit. That doesn't mean we won't see storms. It just probably means we wouldn't have to deal with as much of that severe weather threat. Morning rounds of showers and storms like we had today are, we'll say, kind of like bad news bears for the severe weather potential later in the day. This one got out of here pretty quickly. Sometimes they linger through noon, and then you only have a 2 or 3 hour window to get the atmosphere really juiced up. That's not enough. It's not enough time. We have a little bit more time today to juice up the atmosphere, and that could lead us to the severe storms. So, when I show you these threats and I talk about it, it's certainly not I said it in the morning show, it's not a home run. It's not a slam dunk. Nobody is saying that you are guaranteed to see this in your area. However, the possibility is there, the chance is there, the risk is obviously prevalent, and it's worth knowing so that we can all be prepared and that we can all stay safe. Let me look at a couple of other comments here. Carla said, I answered her question, still leery of storms. Well, Carla, I'm glad I answered your question, and if I missed it, I apologize. And I'm sorry that you're leery of storms, but I know a lot of people get a little bit hesitant of storms and severe weather threats, especially on the heels of our derecho show last year. I know that kind of, it gives a lot of us anxiety. And so, I'm here not to scare anybody, but to prepare you and let you know the potential. Richard said, Pella Balloon Festival this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. How's it look for the weather? Richard, it doesn't look great. I'm afraid that the Balloon Festival is going to have a tough time. Hopefully they'll get them out there at some point. I would say right now Sunday looks like the best day. They might have some time tomorrow. I would say today is probably not a great opportunity unless they're able to get them up for a short period of time between now and about 5 p.m. But it does not look fantastic for the Balloon Festival. And that goes for the Corn Belt 150 in Knoxville as well tonight. Let's see. Amanda said, thanks for all you do. Can the zoo avoid rain and storms between 5 to 9 p.m.? Any chance at all? I will tell you this, Amanda. I think on the early end, yes, there's a chance. If you're going to be at the zoo, I would say 5 to maybe 7 could be dry. Just again, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when those discrete storms will set up. I think earlier on, you have a better chance to be dry. The later the night goes, the less likely it'll be dry. I think close to 9 o'clock, we will be dealing with rain in Des Moines. Dwayne said, where did the 1.63 amount in Fort Dodge come from when Webster City gets a mist at best? Well, Dwayne, a lot of them were moving just southeast. So there was a decent amount of rainfall in Fort Dodge, and that pushed southeast and barely, clipped Webster City, as you said. The 1.63 is also a radar estimate, so it's not necessarily what fell in the rain gauge in Fort Dodge. The radar, the Doppler radar, tries to estimate based on the returns that it has seen all through the morning. So I think Fort Dodge officially had, I can pull it up here. There's a little bit of thunder outside our studio here in West Des Moines. Fort Dodge officially had just over 3/4 of an inch of rain. These were official totals from the airport. So 3/4 of an inch there in Fort Dodge, but it pushed just southeast and missed Webster City, unfortunately, which does stink. Let's see. Carla, you're welcome. Aubrey, thanks for watching. All right, I was just glancing at some other comments. I am going to show you one more look at our radar really quick, and then we will probably wrap up our live stream because I need to record a couple of things and get ready for our Local 5 News midday newscast. But let me show you what we've got in terms of the rain and the activity out there right now. So here's a quick look at the Des Moines Metro. There's a little cell right over the Woodward Granger area. None of these are severe. That's probably the thunder that we're hearing here in West Des Moines is from that cell here. Little downpour just west of Waukee and a little bit of light rain over Carlisle and on the south side of Des Moines between Norwalk and the city of Des Moines. If I zoom out a little bit, we still have some light rain falling in Newton, in Baxter, up to Marshalltown, and then the other thunderstorm action is off to the north. And remember that activity that I was showing in northeast Iowa, northeast of Des Moines through the early afternoon? That's this activity. So the forecast, the FUTURECAST, is actually doing a pretty nice job with that. It's taking this activity, shifting it northeast of Des Moines through the early part of the afternoon and allowing that fuel to build to the south a little bit. So it's coming down at a decent clip in Clarion and southern Wright County. We also have that clipping parts of Hamilton County there, right along the Hamilton and Hardin line. And we are seeing that up and down I-35. So it's south and west of Hampton at this point, but it's moving into Iowa Falls. Hampton will probably get some of this rain as well. And there's a couple of other little pockets off to the west of that. So we will see some of this lingering through the early part of the afternoon, especially farther north. Not everybody will see rain through the afternoon. You'll probably see some sunshine, and we will get a little bit of fuel for the storms. And then, of course, that will determine our severe weather threat later today. One final question. Catherine said, is 2.5-inch hail possible in the Des Moines area? You know, Catherine, I will say if we had a storm that grew and really intensified right over Des Moines, I would say that's possible. However, the likelihood of seeing hail that big in Des Moines is pretty low. I would be more inclined to say an inch, maybe an inch and a half. To see 2.5 inches in Des Moines, certainly not impossible, but right now I think that we will probably avoid that. Hopefully we will avoid that because we don't need hail that big. We don't need hail at all because that doesn't help anybody, but we certainly don't need it at 2.5 inches. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my live stream here. I appreciate you watching. Share this with your family, your friends, people you know, on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever social media platform you use. We will be doing these live stream updates when severe weather threatens our area to get you informed. We do them on social media. We do them on YouTube. And let me tell you, the greatest thing that you can have, and I'm not just plugging this because I work here, on your smartphone, I got my Mississippi State cover here because I'm a Mississippi State fan, download the free We Are Iowa app. Go to the App Store if you have an iPhone. Go to the Google Play Store if you have a Galaxy or an Android of some kind, and search for We Are Iowa. It's a free app. It's a great app. You can download that. You can get severe weather updates, storm updates. You can literally type in your zip code, where you live, whatever town in Iowa you live in, and get weather updates for your community whenever severe weather happens. Sometimes people say, I don't know how to get watches or warnings. I don't know how to get alerted when these things happen. Our app will do that for you. It will show you exactly what to expect, and it's got a really nifty radar tool there too. It's interactive radar, so when storms are moving through our state, you can zoom in, you can zoom out the same way we do. You can do it at home too. So I encourage you to download that. It's totally free, and you can keep our forecast there with you in the palm of your hand all throughout the day. We update it all throughout the day too. So with that, I appreciate you watching. Stay safe today. Hopefully severe weather will dwindle, the prospects for that a little bit, and we will just get some rainfall. But regardless of how this afternoon and this evening plays out, you can count on the Local 5 weather team to keep you up to date and informed. So thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.